Okay, so now we're going to talk about box and whisker plots, another data set that it's another valuable way to actually just organize your data. Okay, today I'm going to use the same numbers that I used for the mean absolute deviation. The only difference is now what I had to do first for a box and whisker plot is put them in order. Okay, so what a box and whisker plot is really good at showing us, it's really good at showing us how data is organized and what the ranges of the data are. So when I talk about a range, what I'm talking about is the high number subtract the low number. And that's what we're going to be finding all here. So my first data set, the highest number, I have this from least to greatest. So I have this from 5 to 15. Obviously, the high minus the low, 15 minus 5 is 10. So that's just my total range, okay? Same thing over here. If I'm calculating my range, if I'm calculating that range, I'm going to take 90, the high number, minus 74, the lowest number, which is 16. Okay, so that's just a basic first piece to mean absolute, to box and whisker plots. Okay, the next piece that I have to find is these are set up into what we call quartiles, and quartiles are split into 4 different sets of data. So when I have a quartile, the first one I need to find is what is known as quartile number 2, and that's actually something that we already know, which is known as the median. Okay. In all of these quartiles, we are going to have the same percentage of data. So a quartile, every quartile will have 25% of the data because that's exactly what a quarter is. Okay. So first, this is from least to greatest. And now I'm going to find my quartile number 2, my median. Okay. So I'm going to get my pen over here. I'm going to circle my median. So if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, I count on one side, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I have a total of 7, which means term number 4, this guy right here, that 10, is quartile number 2. Okay? So that's quartile 2. Now, the next step is to find the upper and the lower quartile. Okay? So I'm going to type in here, this guy right here was quartile 2. Okay? Now to find the upper and lower quartile. So what you're doing again is then you were looking at, for the upper quartile, you were looking to the right of your median. So what we want to do then is look at only the numbers 10, 13, and 15, okay? Or however many numbers are to the right. And we are going to take a second median. So between these 3 numbers, which number is in the middle? Well, that would be this guy right here, the 13. So I'm going to do that in, let's do that in blue. This guy right here. That is our upper quartile, known as quartile 3. And then we have to finalize that for our lower quartile, which I'm going to do this in, let's do green. Same thing for the numbers to the left, 5, 8, 9. This guy right here, that 8, that is quartile number 1, or known as the lower quartile. Okay, so that's all you need to know to actually graph this box and whisker plot. And I'm going to show you how to do that very quickly. Okay, so we have our lower quartile, which is known as quartile number 1. And then we have our upper quartile, which is known as quartile number 3. Okay, so if I was just making this box and whisker plot, I would then create my box. So I would put this on a number line. I don't have a number line right now to actually draw it, but I'm just going to draw this as best I can with my mouse. So apologies here. So we're going to draw our whiskers, okay? And they lead up into our box. Technically, we actually draw our box first, okay? So here's our box, and I'm going to freehand this. And in the middle of our box, right, the line coming straight down here is our quartile number 2, okay? I'm going to finish that up. There's my box. I apologize for the crude drawing. I'm using a mouse, okay? And then those are our whiskers. So what is actually happening here? Well, very simple. This first point right here, click off of that. This first point right here, this guy is the lowest number in our set, which is the start of quartile 1. So that would be the number 5 in our box and whisker plot. And quartile 1, this green section runs from 5 all the way to the start of our box, which quartile 1 starts at number 8. So that right there is an 8. So all the numbers that fall in here are between 5 and 8. Following that, this vertical line right in the middle, this right here is our median. And that's quartile number 2, which that is the physical number 10, okay? Based on this example. So that's quartile number 2. So quartile number 2 starts technically where quartile number 1 ends at 8 and then ends at 10 where it actually ends. So that's kind of what we have right here. We have the end points, okay? Quartile number 3 starts at 10 and goes all the way up to 13 right here. So that's quartile number 3. And then quartile, you're saying, well, where's the last one? Quartile number 4 is this distance. It's the end of quartile 3 all the way up to the last whisker right here. So that's actually quartile 4. So if I count this, we say here's 1, that's quartile 1, quartile 2, quartile 3, and then quartile number 4 is all the way up here. Okay. So that's a brief oversimplification of how we create a box and whisker plot. But essentially, in all of these quartiles, we have the same percent of data, which is back to 25%. It's just a different way to group your information, okay? You may be getting a question that also talks to you about what's known as interquartile range, okay? Or sometimes we refer to that as IQR, okay? When we get to interquartile range, all we're doing there is we are actually just calculating the distance of the box. So that would be looking at quartile 3 and then subtracting quartile 1. So that is how we calculate our interquartile range. So all you need to know, and a range, as we said earlier, is the high value minus the low. So you're just finding the distance of the box. So in this specific example, quartile 3 is 13. Quartile 1 is 8. And when we actually subtract those, we get an interquartile range of 5. So that's a very brief and quick explanation of interquartile range. So just very quickly, we're going to jump through the next one, and we're going to do it ever so quickly. I'm going to do it vertically, okay? And I'm just going to put the values in, and you could create your box on a number line if need be. So I'll erase all of this, and I'll quickly walk you through the next one. What happens if there are different scenarios? So here I have these numbers. I have them ordered from least to greatest. So I'm going to do it vertically. You can make a vertical box and whisker plot, and that would be fine too. Or you could do them horizontally. Both are acceptable, okay? So as I'm looking here, I have 10 numbers. So unfortunately, I look at my median, and it's actually between 81 and 82. So what you have to do here is actually do a quick little calculation. Whenever this happens with our median in our set, we actually have to find the average between those two numbers where we get in the middle. So the average of 81 and 82 is 81.5. That is quartile number 2. So again, I would have to split these numbers right here if I'm creating. And I would have to put in here, all right, we have 81.5. This guy right here is our quartile number 2. So I'm going to highlight that in red. I'll blow that up. Now the process is the same. So I'm still going to calculate. I'm still going to calculate the median. If I can spell, that'd be great. I'm going to find the lower quartile. So I'm going to calculate the median of the lower numbers. So from 74 to 81, which number is the median? That would be the 77. So that is the lower quartile. So quartile number 1. And then same thing for 82 to 90. That the number in the middle would be 87. So that is the upper quartile, which is quartile number 3. Okay. So I'll just highlight those up here. And again, you would see where they are actually located. So I'll highlight that guy in blue, and I'll highlight this guy in blue as well. Okay. So Again, it would still be the same. So if you're creating your box, I could actually just create this right over top here. Here's your box. Excuse my crude handwriting. I'm doing this with a mouse. There's quartile number 2, and your whiskers would extend to 90 and then 74. Okay. So it's a very quick overview. The only other thing you could calculate would be the interquartile range. And that would be, again, quartile 3, subtract quartile number 1. So in that case, quartile 3, 87, quartile 1, 77. You have an interquartile range of 10. Okay. So again, I hope that helps. And let us know and ask questions if you need it. That's just a brief overview of how they are created. And then there's another video that links into how to read them a little bit more in depth than what I gave.